Laura. Ah, now it is hearing us. Say good night again to the YouTube. Good night. And welcome. Once you are on the inside, of course, as usual, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap this screen over there on TikTok if you're wondering how to hit the like button. Hit that screen 2 taps real quick. And you can keep doing it over and over. Really get those likes soaring. Allow the algorithm to know, hey, this is some good stuff. What you doing? Allow the algorithm to know, hey, this is some good stuff. Send out the notification to some more people. We are in the Christmas season. Lily, how the tree look? How the Christmas tree look? Yeah, how it look? How the Christmas tree look? We decorate. Who puts up the lights? You put up the lights? You put up the lights on the Christmas tree?
Who does your marries?
All right, nice.
It's the person wants.
Okay, good. Yeah, the tree up. The season start, people. How things? How has life been? She's clearly saying it could be better. Listen, she loves the tree. She decorated it partially herself. So, she's fine with the tree. And you like the tree? And the tree's perfect? Nice. See? Simple like that. But yes, in the news coming out of Trinidad and Tobago, I see our politicians have agreed to accept the Reviews Commission's recommendation on their salary changes. And you know, when I hear people talk about these things, this salary discussion, it has been interesting hearing people talk about it. And you get to see people's political perspectives shine out. Because I'm sure it's like some of the things that are being said in favor of the salaries, I'm sure if it was another political party in control, it would have been the opposite said. Like, I understand that on a global scale, management has a certain salary to it. On a global scale, if you're managing something that has a certain level of responsibility, there's a certain level of expected remuneration there. And I understand that. However, I think there must be a balance when you're talking about something like a government, like a state. How is it possible for someone to be in control of what might be considered in some quarters a failing entity, but be rewarded with an increase in pay? How does that work? I hear some arguments saying that part of the reason you want to make sure you're paying these politicians really well is because you want to get the best people in the job. If you pay them real well, you'll get the best people in the job. But I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe if you increase the salary of a politician, if you're going to get better politicians. Do you think if we offered $1 million per month, if we offered $1 million per month, do you think that we would have gotten the most honest politicians then? At $1 million per month, would that have really brought out the most honest politicians out of the population? And then we would have gotten the real good guys to rule the country at $1 million per month. So the reason we have corrupt, inefficient, inept people in charge of our politics right now is because we aren't paying them enough. Anybody really buys that? Because I don't buy that. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. That doesn't even seem probable to me. That doesn't even seem like a reasonable probability in my mind. But yeah, we talking, folks. We talking. I know it's not Thursday talks exactly, but we're now returning from a nice 3-week or was it 4 weeks? How many other weeks holiday? So what's been in the news? Hey, Hotep, what going on, bro? How is life? How things in Hotepville? How the Hotep's been Hoteping? Tell me why Tech pull their power. Where? 2 months, lad. Where Tech pull their power from? Where has a blackout right now? I have good current, electricity flowing by me. Now coming from work, Scarborough. Well, and something went on with your autonomy bill out there in Tobago. It fell through. I don't even know what's going on in the news. Oh, good. Umar, you know, somebody told me. I was told that I have to start back the lives soon because somebody was telling me they lost on current events. Because the live is how they kept up with the news, and the live stop and they don't know what's going on in the country. They lost. So I could see what you're saying there. People want increased salaries. That is the news. The government wants more money. And crime as usual. Crime and more crime. I saw in Tobago they made a massive big bust. Some big pounds and some weapons and ammunition and thing. Tobago got a shakedown. Good for Tobago. I saw a businessman brutally murdered. That video, that's a strange video right there. Hey, good night, Lucky Fredo. I see notorious people are being released. Locally and internationally, notorious people are being released from behind bars. What you even talking about? With what? With the notorious people being released? Y'all are unaware of notorious people being released? Isn't one of those guys from your area, Umar? One of the guys, a guy from your area, I believe. He was released yesterday or something to that effect. He was, okay. Well, one guy who was charged for an alleged murder after Wasafet sometime in 2009 or something like that. He was released, he was cleared of that charge in 2018 or 19, somewhere there. And then they recharged him, they reissued that charge because they didn't like how it went down. And then he beat the case again. And he's now free. Many people have alleged that he was the head of a community organization from behind bars. That was an allegation. There were allegations that some kind of feud between his organization and another organization was causing a lot of friction in the Morva region. And now he's on the outside. Is it fair to say the government wants more money? How long has the SRC been working on this? The SRC, I believe, has been working on this for nearly a decade. So yes, it is a while. And I have to say they want more money because the SRC is something that they have ultimate control over. And if they didn't want it, they didn't have to take it. So if they take it, it's because they want it. And that's locally, the notorious people locally. Foreign, internationally, the guy from, is it US Virgin Islands? Is he from? A guy, a noted music producer, the CEO of West Shore. What do they call themselves? The guys who sing with the number after 5, those guys, their music label, the main music label that a lot of them sing for, the CEO of that music label was behind bars out in somewhere up the Caribbean there, and he was released last week, was it? Sometime very recently, he was released. when we habla the negative, we will attract more negative. Why can't we talk about the good news that is going on in the country? What good news would you like us to speak about, Miss Donovan? What good news, pray tell? And there's some reality to this. Like, I understand and I agree to some extent that you focus on the bad news, and you kind of seem like it exaggerates and it spreads out from there. But there's a reason that human beings in general focus more on bad news. There's a reason that we focus more on the news that is a little more on that dreary side, and that's because that's the news that tends to affect us worse. Like, okay, if someone, I recently went to an orphanage and it was a beautiful function. The orphanage was well functioning. We enjoyed it. We did some stuff for the children there, and it was a lovely thing. Now, that's good news, but that's not exactly something that can affect many of your lives directly. You all might not be an orphan looking for an orphanage to take you in. So me speaking about that is, yeah, you'd feel good about it, but it's not necessarily something that affects your life directly. While an increase in murders is something that can more directly affect your life. The new airport in Tobago. But even in that good news, Donovan, aren't there allegations about cost overruns? And I saw the Minister of Finance saying that the media is misleading people, etc. But the oil and gas finds on land and on sea. And but we do talk about the positive too. We do talk about the positive too. It's just that by and large the negative is what grips us more, because it is what affects us more. It is what can harm us more. It's like if you look out at a field and you see 1,000 flowers and one gun. You look out and you see 1,000 flowers and one gun pointing at you. Your eyes are going to focus on the gun. Like, the flowers could be very beautiful. They may smell absolutely heavenly, but the one gun is going to attract your attention. It's just the reality. It's just the reality of how we see things. It's just the reality of how we see things. And especially when talking in the political sense, even more so. Because in the political sense, we deal with politics to solve problems. And to me, that's kind of an issue I have in politics. I don't think politics, the political sphere, the government sphere, I don't think that is about giving people feel-good stuff. No, people can do the feel-good stuff all on their own. Social and cultural groups and institutions can do that. The political sphere is problem solving. That's really and truly what the political sphere is about. Problem solving. So when you're talking politics, oftentimes you're talking problems. And the truth is, sometimes politicians would like for us to talk about only the good stuff, because then we can avoid where they aren't solving the problems that they are being paid to solve. They are being paid a lot to solve. And we made full circle back to the payment issue. How do we determine the pay for political leaders? Is it just based on comparing what other people in large companies make? Or should there be some kind of performance basis on this? Like you get paid according to your approval ratings. We take an approval rating, and according to your approval rating, your salary goes up or down. We have grown very negative. I travel a lot. When I go to Mexico, Colombia, you hear nothing of crime. Well, I think that may not necessarily be true, Miguel. I think if you are a Mexican, you may hear a lot about crime. According to what kind of... So I listen to a lot of international news. I hear a lot of negative news about Mexico. I haven't heard positive news about Mexico in a long time. It's all negative I hear about Mexico of late. They're in a new cartel war is breaking out because the cartels are changing hands. Which government in the world is paid on performance? Well, I don't know of any that are directly paid on performance. I guess some monarchies might technically be paid on performance because if you own everything in the country, if the country loses assets, then you lose assets too. So I guess you are paid on performance as a monarch. But that's what I was going to say, Miguel. If you are a visitor in a country, the news you might get may not be the same, especially if there's a language barrier. But for the people in the country like us, like I wouldn't doubt if you're a German and you come to Tobago for 2 weeks, you aren't going to turn on I-95 and hear people bad talk the government and the salaries. You might not even know there's a salary reviews commission whole brouhaha going on right now. A German visitor to Tobago for 2 weeks, unless someone of those annoying pests come and harass you and steal something or beat you up, all you know is this place was absolutely beautiful. I want to come back again next year. That's all you know. So yeah, I think there is that avenue, but for the people living here, we aren't tourists. I am almost certain that once the salary increases, the pension would increase also. The first thing local taxi drivers tell you about is the crime in Trinidad. I'm not sure about that, and I'm not sure how many tourists just jump in a random local taxi driver's vehicle. But I don't necessarily know that to be the 100% truth, that our tour operators, their first discussion is on crime instead of on sites and what to visit. I don't think that's true. I don't buy that. I think as locals, we do talk about the issues because we are locals. We aren't tourists. We aren't here to visit all the nice parts. We are here trying to make sure that this thing works, that it can be fixed. And I think if we are here permanently, we kind of can't leave. Well, we can, but if you're not leaving, you need this thing to work. So I want to focus on the problems and get those problems sorted. And I do think it is an issue. I don't care if no other government is paid on performance. I do think it is an issue, especially in a country like ours, where we have a massive public service to discuss the government salary. Because when you have a massive public service, it becomes an obvious comparison also. I think making it a comparative issue makes sense. If we have a public sector, a public service, all of the people in the public service are supposed to be working for the service of this country, just as all the politicians are supposed to be doing. So if you are saying their salaries are based just on the job, then you should be paying everyone in the public service just based on the job. And then are you telling me that the Prime Minister's job is 10 times, 15 times more worth it than all of the others in that service? Really? Most governments bite the bigger of the public sector employment, and I think that's a bad thing. Here's how I buy this. If we have an executive group of politicians that are ruling the country with very little public sector, they're just running the country based on the political sphere. They don't employ a whole large group that is sucking on our tax-paying dollars. Then fine, we pay you a good bit because you are an administrator and you are running this as such. But if you are running basically a massive public sector employment program, and that's who you have trailing behind you, all of them supposed to be making your job easier as the leading politician there. You can't tell me we are already paying billions of dollars to this massive bloated public sector, and then you are going to sit down at the head of this public sector and take an executive top dollar salary with all of these helpers. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. I think so too, however, that's the reality of the world. That does not happen anywhere in the world. You see, then what sense does that make? What sense does that make, Miguel Danoa? How are we supposed to hold our politicians to a standard, and the standard is whether it happens somewhere else or not? That's ridiculous. Then we by that kind of mentality, no one would have outlawed slavery, because slavery happened everywhere in the world. That happened everywhere in the world. Nowhere else in the world were there no slaves. So how could we talk about banning slaves? That doesn't happen anywhere in the world. How would we survive banning slaves? Nowhere in the world does that by voting them out. Voting them out doesn't make sense in this discussion. We are not talking about changing who is in charge. We are talking about what the people in charge do. That is what we are talking about. And this kind of idea that all we could do is vote them out and exchange one for the other, and each one or the other basically does the same thing just in a different color, that's what frustrates a population. That's what leads populations to the brink of revolution. That's what happens in Haiti. Now, the benefit in a country like Trinidad and Tobago is that by and large, Trinidad and Tobago is such a wealthy country. Money is flowing nice in Trinidad and Tobago that revolutionary ideas don't jump into people's heads as easily. But if Trinidad were to get a bit more of a hiccup, that kind of behavior from our Prime Minister and the leadership is looking for problems. The politics of politics is worldwide. We are not going to change that. The politics would not change. Wow. Well, aren't you a hopeful guy, Miguel Danoa? Aren't you a hopeful guy? Well then, we shouldn't vote. We shouldn't discuss politics. We should just live and eat whatever they serve us. When they urinate and defecate on us and tell us have lunch and it's raining, we should just say thank you sir and thank you ma'am, because there's nothing we could do about it. It's never going to change, and we just, we have to, sir. You would have been a depressing co-slave. Like, if I was a slave alongside you, I would have been depressed. What was the tanty name? What was the tanty name out in the US there who was running the is Harriet Tubman, who was running the Underground Railroad and freeing slaves up and down the place? You could imagine if Harriet Tubman had somebody like Donovan next to her. Pressure. Not a slave free. All now we still picking cotton. Boy, this never changes, boy. The licks just comes down from our master. We can't be doing nothing about that. Just gotta take that licks and work hard, boy. Slavery is all we know. Slavery is all we gon' know for our whole lives. Blatant mismanagement in this country. I agree, there's a lot of mismanagement. A lot. But yeah, as I said, for me, one of the things that makes it different in our country is the size of our public service. Good night, Jamal. It's the size of our public service. Our public service is too large for this kind of level of nonsense that we're doing. Guillotine cure for a headache. Yeah, I understand why the French do it. Listen, Umar. Emotionally, I am a revolutionary. In my emotion, I stand alongside the French. I stand alongside the Haitians. Every Monday morning, vive la revolution. I'm with you. I feel guillotine-ish too. It's just that I pause and read a little further down the stories of revolution and recognize that although emotionally I feel like I can revolutionize every Monday morning, logically I recognize that as a father and as a man with things to lose and not wanting my society to burn itself down to the lowest level, I understand that the revolution costs a lot. And disrupting the social order that currently stands may get the current leadership out, but disrupting the social order is disrupting the social order. And what makes any of us think that if we topple the current authority, that we have any say in who the next authority is going to be? What if those number guys decide that we topple the authority and in the vacuum of power, they want to take some power for themselves? Any of us could stop the number guys on our own? So, as much, Uma, bro, the feeling is there. The feeling I have is like I'd like to see a guillotine stretching all the way halfway up Nicholas Towers. You're seeing that blade just glistening on the promenade, and you line them up. Hotep, stay safe, bro. Sando at quarter to 11. What time you reaching in, brother? Do you not think that it is our duty to pay that price for the potential of a better future? Here's the thing, Jamal. I don't mind paying a price for the potential of a better future if there's a high potential of that better future. That's what parents do. That's especially fathers. That's a sacrifice a father is supposed to willingly make. But I don't think that's what the case is going to be. That it is a potential for a better future. I just don't think so. I don't think that the likelihood is that a better future is on the other side of that. You look at the history. You look at France and their revolutions. You look at Haiti and their revolutions, and you see that when you disrupt the order and you leave that power vacuum, oftentimes the most power hungry people are the people that fill the vacuum, and the most power hungry people are oftentimes the people you least want in power. Sometimes as corrupt and mismanaged and inefficient and unlikable as the current leadership may be, the give and take of however long it took for this leadership to be where it is, that cut and thrust and compromise here and there, as corrupt as they might be, they may very well be much less corrupt than what lies in the wake on the other side of a violent revolution. So if you are on that revolutionary view and you want me to join, what I would need to see is exactly how you plan on doing this. How then should we react in order to make the future better and less corrupt? Well, you see, it's not, revolution isn't the only R word out there. There's reform. Revolution is you spin. Reform is we slowly move and push it in another direction. And reformation is that cultural change. Reformation is the cultural change. Reformation is a culture that no longer is okay with looking at our politicians and saying they are supposed to make 15 times the salary of a regular public servant. Like, you do understand that is neocast. That's a neocast system, a neoclass system. You are looking at somebody and saying they deserve, not based on the free market. That's why I love the free market and capitalism to some extent. The free market and capitalism, it's not really about what you deserve. You get what you produce. I am not paid what I deserve. I'm paid what I produce. If I produce something, people pay me for what I produce, and that's what I earn. But that's not what is going on here. This is not based on what Dr. Rowley and Mr. Imbert and Mr. Hines and they produce. That's not their payment. We are talking based on deserve here. And we are saying, as supposedly free, sensible people out here, we were freed from the colonial mentality and slavery, right? Us, we kind of people. And we are saying that our leaders deserve 15 times the salary of the people in the regular workers in the public service. How you reach that kind of groveling view? Best? Yes, I did. I watched. That's What If Alt History. It wasn't. I became a subscriber. I probably watch every video on his thing after that. Like, how do you put yourself in that frame of mind? How do you put yourself in that frame of mind where you look at these people and say they deserve this? Like, pause and think about it. Now, I could understand if you're saying that, well, it's not like we could stop it from happening. Okay, fine. That's not what we could do at this moment. But at least in mentality, is your mentality that they deserve that? And that's what we need to change. We're talking about the salaries of our politicians. And that's what we need to change. And that's how reform happens. It's to prevent corruption, right? Sure. Because rich people are honest. When people get enough money, they don't want any more money. Right. Yeah. And that's what we need with the Reformation. Let's change the mindset. Let it be that nobody in Trinidad buys that line. Nobody, like, okay, you could come and take more of our money. You could do that. You have the power to take more if you want. But none of us are standing up here and championing you, saying you deserve this. No. Let that not be it. Let them have to take the money bold-faced, knowing that none of us agree with it. Is there anyone in the parliament that studied political science, or is just who know who? I wouldn't doubt there may be some political science majors. I wouldn't doubt that. And most of them would have degrees and postgraduate degrees. Yes, I am. Yes, I. It's unfortunate that the increase isn't value-based, as in they did a good job governing. Exactly. It's unfortunate. And yes, we know that no government is ever really going to do that because they will make no money. If any government basically says that the only way we'll get paid is if the country makes a profit, or if the median salary of the country increases. Like, how about that? How about that? The leader of a country gets paid 2 times the median salary. 2 times the median salary of the country, and that's what we pay the leader. Let me see what's Trinidad's median salary. I'm looking for the median, not necessarily the average. The average, they say, is $9,000 to $10,000 a month TT. Right, you get paid double the average, 20,000 TT. 20,000 TT, double the average. Why not? What's wrong with that? And here's the thing. As you increase the average salary, your salary increases too. Perfect. Does paying a politician more prevent corruption? No, it does not. It does not prevent corruption. It will not. In fact, if a politician is in the job for money, I think that increases the likelihood of corruption, not decreases. If they are in it for the money, it increases the likelihood. Maybe, and I know many people may not like this idea because it could sound elitist. It could sound like you're going to make it very exclusive who could get the job. But how about here's an idea. Anyone going up for governance, for leadership, should be in a position where they don't need the salary. It's an unpaid job. You're going there because you want to make things better for the country where you make your money. My voice need to be blessed. So who even make it seem like that is the point of paying? They make it seem like that, Trini Hotep. They made the rules. And they who made the rules said that when you pay us more, we wouldn't be as corrupt. Rowley don't need the money. Most of the PNM stealing is just sport for them. Well, let them prove that they don't need the money. Like, to me, that might make more sense. What you're telling me, if it's a position that has no salary, what you're telling me is the benefit of this position is in creating benefit for the country, and that's how you benefit. Beautiful. You help the country to succeed, and that's how you benefit. Why do you need a salary then? You know, for reasons like this, I could understand monarchies. I could understand the idea of the monarchies and the feudal lords, where a family was personally, privately in charge of an area, and how the area did directly affected the family. The better the area did, the better the family did. Like, you could feel like that makes some sense. Because as it stands now, that's not how it works. We are in a voted monarchy, but not even really, Everton Lowell. Because in a monarchy, the idea is that the king is directly affected by the success of the country because he is the person that is the representative of the state. So if the country goes bankrupt and frail, he goes bankrupt and frail. Oftentimes, if the country loses a significant battle, he would be dead. They have vested interest in the country doing well. But the democratic systems we have now, a leader could be voted in, stay in power for 3 terms, scrape out as much money as they could, and then them and their entire family migrates. How many of Dr. Rowley's children live permanently in Trinidad? Do any live permanently outside of Trinidad? And then, can you tell me that's not an indictment? And in a monarchy, that's not things you would see? Because you have a direct vested interest. But look at the economies of the monarchies today, actual monarchies, not England. You mean like in the Middle East, their economies aren't that bad. And monarchies are much more efficient. The main problem with a monarchy is if you have a bad monarch, That's the main issue. Because even in a monarchy, you can run a basic capitalist system with a monarchy also. They've done it in Saudi Arabia. So the main issues there is when you have a bad monarch. All right, people, what else is in the news before I dive out? I rather a bad monarch than a bad democracy. I could understand what you mean. And here's the thing. A bad monarch almost always had a lot of things hanging over his head. A bad monarch, the chances are your days are numbered. Few bad monarchs lived to die of old age. Let's put it that way. If you were a bad monarch, old age wasn't how you were going to leave this earth. And, well, Ronnie says human rights are almost always called into question. Ronnie, human rights, there are lots of benefits to it. But there are also trade-offs to it also. How is it? We were speaking previously about notorious people being released. In a country that has a monarchy, those things aren't as much of a problem. Those things aren't much of a problem. If we had less care for human rights, dealing with crime wouldn't be as much of an issue. I'm just saying. If you extremely strictly obey all human rights provisions, you would nearly never catch a criminal. My punch guy was gunned down in Arima last night. I saw that. They murdered a punch man. And if you read or you hear and talk to police, nearly every good night, Drea. I don't know exactly who I'm speaking to there. Yeah, if you speak to police, nearly every killing like that, an officer would tell you they know who did it, why they did it, what they did it for. A country without civil rights. That was solved. No civil rights, and that was solved. Man ain't robbing no punch man in Saudi because they know the outcome. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, Uma. There's no red tape there, There's no appeal court. You don't call the Civil Rights Commission. Yeah. None of all of this. None of all of that. I have a lot of cousins. Wife, cousin. Hey, what's up? Yeah. There's no civil rights council to call. There's no appeals court that you could go. No. If the king say you got to go, you got to go. You got to go. Like, how in Trinidad, and not just in Trinidad and Tobago, let's not only leave it here, but in countries, in democratic countries, there are people, the name of somebody in the country who's a notorious criminal who causing crimes all around the country. You know the name of the person, you know the address of the person, you know how they look. They have a social media profile where they're flexing and dancing all the time. And the whole country must just watch this person dance and whine in front of us. In democratic countries, they don't do things like that in those monarchy countries. I'm just saying. No, this isn't even a straight endorsement of monarchies, because I understand that's a scary thing. If you end up with the wrong monarch, there's nothing you could do. And that's the trade-off that we get with the democratic systems. It's inefficient, it's horrible, the people are unaccountable in the long run, but it's not as scary as a wrong monarch. You know, a wrong monarch, that's the kind of power. You have an attractive wife, you walking through Shogunas, the king pass, see your attractive wife and say your wife is my wife, and there's nothing you could do about that. That has happened in some of these authoritarian countries. So I mean, or a military strongman, that's his job. A military strongman too, yeah, similar to a monarchy, but a monarchy is still a different flavor than a military strongman, because the general idea of a monarchy too is it's hereditary. So again, military strongmen could fleece the country and their children will go and live in Miami for the rest of their lives and become an American citizen, and their grandchildren live in the United States as full American citizens. But a monarchy is still different from a military strongman in that my children are going to get this country afterwards, and then my grandchildren are going to get it, and then my great-grandchildren, all until somebody kills somebody and disrupts the order. Right now, Saudi crime-free basically, but it have no speaking against the crown. Yeah, it's the trade-off. You tell... Like in Saudi, I was watching, Saudi isn't dealing with the Palestinian protests. They don't want any of that. Saudi is a Muslim majority country. And you could get away with protesting for longer in London than you can anywhere in Saudi. I know it's politics. I know the reasons, but I'm just talking about the effectiveness of when they say we don't want something, there will be none of it. I don't think they're too worried about anti-Semitism and that kind of stuff. And in London and in the United States, people are grabbing pearls about anti-Semitism. We don't need these protests. These protests need to stop, and they can't do anything about it. In Saudi, when they say there will be none, there is none. If all stand up, what can they do? in Saudi Arabia, all who stand up. All who stand up. Or are you talking about like in Trinidad, if all of us stand up here? Like if all of us stand up, that's a different thing. But I don't think there's not an all to stand up. Oh, here in Trinity, well, yeah. If we all stand up. But that's again, that's what I'm talking about in terms of reforming, though. Reforming is changing the mind. You know, you have you understand things a bit better, so your view on things change. Getting all to stand up is one of the hardest things to accomplish. The problem is getting all to stand up for what? Like, yeah, we could get people to do things, get people fired up, but fired up about what? To do what? So, okay, people call for a protest. Let's all march downtown. For what? For what? Against crime and mismanagement. All right. I disagree with the level of crime. I disagree with the mismanagement. But what does the marching have to do with that? Why do we march? And people are right in many cases to be divided and not to take that unity so seriously. Because here's what happens very often. You go down in a march. I am marching against crime and mismanagement. The march ends in a meeting, and at the meeting you recognize some new political entity jumps up and some person is claiming your protest as their support. So what are we standing up for? What are we all standing up with? You see, that's the issue. And that's the problem with revolution versus reformation. Reformation is we're working out what we want, exactly what we want, and we tweak little small things as we figure it out. We tweak that and change that as we go. Revolution is we know we don't want this, so we throw the whole thing over, not knowing what we're really going to replace it with and how it's going to happen. Therein is the problem. So all stand up. I don't mind standing up with people, but stand up for what? Stand up to do what? I will stand with you on things we agree with. And I think there might be a lot of those things. But what are they? We have to get pretty specific. That's not protest them that's having Trinidad is Walkerton and Lime. Yeah, read the fine print. And many of these protests are organized by the unions and MSG and different political groups and stuff. And I am not in full agreement with what those unions want. Those unions, okay, granted, I don't agree with the government getting paid more, but many of those unions have the view that all public servants are basically supposed to make all the money in the country, and all of us in the private sector are supposed to pay for it. I don't agree with that. So why am I going to march for that? All right, people. We back. We back, and we plan to be around for the Christmas season. As you see, the tree done up, decoration in process. The season nice. Why are you still up? The host is still up. Yes, Ronnie, I'm sure. We're back. The host is still up. So let me see if I can go put the host to bed. And I'll see you all again tomorrow for the Thursday talks. Come host. Tell the people good night. And explain why you still awake. Say good night, people. Why are you still awake? Why are you not sleeping? You're not gonna tell them why you're not sleeping? Let's fix our mustache. You fixing your mustache? Fix your mustache too. You fixing your mustache too? All right, people. Yeah, she like herself. She like herself. Who's that pretty girl? Show them the pose. No poses. You that pretty girl. Clap 5. Correct is right. All right, people, good night. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. This has been the Mindful Life. I am your co-host, Nathan Springer, joined by my grand, beautiful host. Until next one, people, hold it down. Stay well, stay safe. Stay inside, outside. They're sketchy. Go Marry somebody and make the babies out there. They're lovely stuff. Populate Trinidad. Later, folks. Later, folks. Good night. Bye. Blessed King, International Madman. Ronnie, you know alright. You know alright. You know. I don't know why you're fronting. I don't know why you're fronting, Ronnie.